Okay, I wanted to do another video on weather. And the reason I wanted to do this one next is because I made a comment in the last video about how a pitcher's fatigue can vary depending on the weather, in addition to him having good stuff in a particular game. And so I want to show how that effect takes place and also show you the different weather effects that are in this game. So these are entirely optional. You don't need to use them if you don't want to. You're not going to break the game if you don't use them. But they add another neat feature, whether it be the temperature effect on the pitcher or the wind effect on fly balls that could turn them into home runs or turn a potential home run into a fly out. So I do use them, but if you wanted to go on to Baseball Reference and find the actual weather for the game, you could do that. But this will give you kind of a sense of how weather works in this game when you use the rules that Tom created. So before each game, you're going to roll the dice 3 times. You're going to roll your white, black, and red dice 3 times. The first roll is going to be for the temperature at game time. The second is going to be for the direction of the wind, and then the third is going to be for the strength of the wind. So on this chart here, you have 3 little charts. You have one that tells you when you roll the dice what impact the red die is going to have on the temperature of the wind. The wind direction guide, which is on the second roll, and then the wind effect on deep flies. Once you get what the wind speed and direction is, you can see how it's going to impact the deep flies. So let's do Riverfront Stadium. We're talking about Jack Billingham. Here he is, and his fatigue is 26 at level 1 and 19 at level 2. Let's see what might happen if we were to have some weather impact on him. So let's say we're playing a July game during the day or actually, no, let's say it's an August game during the day in Riverfront Stadium. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to roll your 3 dice, and you're looking at August day. And the roll I got is a 12 with a 7. So a day game with a 12, you're going to look over in the first column, 11 to 36. The base temperature is 78 degrees, but then you have to put in the red die's effect. And the red die was a 7. And on that adjustment, that's going to make it +2 to that base. So it's 80 degrees in Riverfront Stadium on this day. So 80 degrees for the temperature. Okay, second roll, you're going to use the middle column, and you really just need the white and the black for this one. So I'll roll those, and I got a 3 and a 5, 35. And so that is going to be a 3. And on the wind direction guide, a 3 means the wind is blowing out to right field. So we'll remember that the wind is blowing out to right. Okay, and then the last roll we're going to do is the wind speed, and that's going to be an easy one because anything 11 to 66, the base is 7 miles an hour. So I'm just going to roll the red, and I got a 0. Okay, a 0 is going to be a -4, because when the red die is 0, you would subtract 4 from the base for the temperature of the wind. So it's 80 degrees and the wind is blowing out to right. 7 minus 4 is 3 miles an hour. So not much wind today, and as fate would have it, that doesn't really affect anything in the game, because you have to have wind of at least 5 miles an hour to impact the deep fly effect for the park. And so the numbers and the home run ratings are going to be the same, +3, +2, and -1. Let's hypothetically say a few things are different. Let's say that on the first roll we rolled a 41 and we rolled an 8 on the red die. So the 41 would be 88 degrees as a base, and the 8 would be +3. So that would make it 91. So a hot day on the carpet at Riverfront. And let's also say that on the third roll, we obviously have the 11 to 66, but let's say that we rolled a 9 on that one for a wind effect of +4. So now we have the wind blowing out at 11 miles an hour, 7 + 4 instead of 7 - 4. So now we have a day where it's 91 degrees and the wind is blowing out to right field at 11 miles an hour. What does that do? Okay, the first thing it does is the wind is going to make it easier to hit home runs to right field. A wind velocity of 10 to 14 miles an hour adds 2 to the deep fly effect to the field that is impacted. So that's right field. And so right field would go from -1, where it takes away some home runs. You add 2 to that, it's now +1. So now the home run ratings favor the hitter in all 3 corners of the field. Left, center, and right are all going to be +3, +2, and right field will be now +1. The wind effect, when it's hit to left or to right, or when the wind is coming in or out from left or right, it doesn't impact the other fields. It only impacts the field that is of note there. So in this case, right field becomes +1. The other thing it would do, because it's 91 degrees, is when it's a day game and the temperature is greater than 90, pitcher fatigue goes down by 4. So Billingham's 26 or 19 are now 22 and 15. So he's going to tire a lot faster because it's so hot. If it were a night game and it was above 90, it would have a -2 effect. And a day game or a night game, 56 to 77 degrees, has a +2 effect. So if it were a cooler day, let's say we were talking about a game in April, during the day, odds are pretty good with those base temperatures of 63 and 71 that the final temperature would fall somewhere between 56 and 77. And if so, Billingham's fatigue would go to 28 and 21. So he would be less susceptible to fatigue. So that's how weather impacts fatigue and home runs. There's 2 other optional effects related to the wind. And what those are crosswinds, and then when the wind is blowing in or out from center field. If you have a crosswind, and so that would be if you were to have a 4 or an 8 on your wind direction, and you can see that Riverfront has some of those. If you look at a night game in April or May, 11 to 22 would be a 4, 51 to 62 would be an 8. So that's when the wind is blowing at a crossing the field. And when that's the case, you would have the effect and you would apply it to left and right field. So for instance, if the wind is blowing from left to right at 10 miles an hour, then normally 10 miles an hour would be a 2-point effect. But because it's a crosswind, you basically take those 2 points and you divide them up between left and right. You take 1 point away from left because the wind is blowing away from left, and you would add 1 point to right because the wind is blowing toward that direction. So if that were the case here at Riverfront, left field would become +2, center field would stay +2, and right field would be 0 with the crosswind effect. Now, if you have the wind blowing in or out to center, in addition to the impact on center field, you take half that effect and you apply it to left field and right field. So think about those days when the wind was blowing in heavily at Wrigley Field. It had an impact on all the fields if it was coming in from center field. So at Riverfront, if you had a 2, which is out to center, or a 6 in from center, and you can see there's some possibilities there, you would take the impact, and let's say you had a 10-mile wind blowing out to center field. That would add 2 to center field, the direct effect, so that would make it a +4. And you'd also add 1 or half that effect to left field and to right field. So left field would also be +4 and right field would be 0. And consequently, if it were coming in at 10 miles an hour, you're going to take 2 away from center to make it 0, and take 1 away each from left and right to make it +2 and -2. So very different impact on fly balls, depending on which way the wind is blowing. So those are the weather effects and what they do. Again, a nice feature. You're not going to break the game if you don't use them. The only really thing you need to do with the ballpark is the home run ratings. That's the one thing that's a must. The optional effects on singles, doubles, and triples, I use them. I think they're really neat to show parks' impact on especially extra base hits. And I like the weather. I think it's a fun way to kind of recreate what might have happened had the weather been different than it actually was on that day, or maybe the same. So that's weather and the impact it has on box seat baseball. Thanks for watching.